When I was a kid, I played Mega Man 1. Then, I stopped. Then I played Mega Man 2, thinking it had to be easier than its predecessor. And I loved it. From the shitty graphics, to the annoying music, to the frustrating bullshit in every level, to how useless my main weapon felt. Oh, sorry, did I say loved? I meant I pitched my disc straight into Lake Ontario.
That poor Arnold. That poor otter. I almost decked an otter.
Now, years later, with several games beaten, I finally decided to try it again, and, well, I thought the game was good. Fun, even. It was a strange feeling going back to something that I hated as a kid, to actually recognizing its merits. But before I go into this analysis, I just want to say that I'm not blind to my own bias. I'm aware I'll be criticizing a 33-year-old game, with all the hindsight of everything that came after it. That's why I think the best way for me to look at this game is through the lens of how it followed its previous game, Mega Man 1, which I also reviewed last year. And that's a video that will surely age like fine wine. You just got a good look at Donald Trump's cock and balls. And with that, I pose to you, the viewer, a question. Is there a game with a more iconic opening sequence than this? I love everything about this opening. The ascending pan up, the music that picks up and rises with it, the fucking drop! And of course, the little blue man on top, looking out on a city that's getting ransacked by Wily's robots. Why is he standing on top of this building? Who cares? It looks cool and it hypes me up to play this game every single time. By adding the text and cityscape, there's an actual feeling that Mega Man lives in a world outside of the stages he's about to aggressively die in. And that's really cool. The pittance of world building here really goes a long way. Now, I'm not saying this game has an amazing story or anything. It's still Wily bad, he has bad robots, kill bad robots, and stop Dr. Wily. But I'd be lying if I told you that Rise to the Top doesn't make me grip my controller with excitement every time. You get to the stage select and whoa! 2 more bosses, and now they all have portraits tied to them. I like how you can just kind of pick out their personalities just by looking at them. You've got Dr. Rad, the Bicklighter who's sad, Mr. Woodenclad, the motorcycle training school grad. Making jokes about blowing makes this guy very mad. The guy who has the chin of a Chad, bad. And the guy who's dating your dad. And there's no coping, compartmentalizing it, or even accepting it no matter how many years go by. Quickman is dating your dad. These portraits only scratch the surface when it comes to the creativity and visual quality of the game though. Each of these levels have so much going on in the background and foreground compared to the first game. Metal Man has all these strange contraptions and cogs turning away. Heatman's stage, oh my fucking god, this fly, I'm gonna fucking murder ya! Heatman's got these weird layers of bricks that add visual depth to the level. Woodman's got all these trees in the background with foliage and leaves that actually might be robotic or metal or something. All of it seems considerably more detailed and aesthetically appealing than the first game, especially compared to Cutman's stage, which is the recommended first level you play in that game. Now, to quote a great TED Talk,
sometimes great ideas are actually horrible ideas.
This increase in quality really doesn't apply to one new stage in particular, and that's Bubble Man's. When you load in and see the flowing waterfalls, you might briefly take in the spectacle of it before realizing that your eyes are horrendously strained while you move through the first part of this godforsaken level! The visual clutter here is god-awful. Honestly, I almost feel I have to apologize for showing this to you. Thankfully, it's only part of the stage. The first game had a lot of reused enemies, and this game has enemies that appear in multiple levels too, but it feels like so much more care is put into these ones. The first game had these shooty platforms that I genuinely despised because of their random flight patterns. Well, now they're these clouds you ride on with actual enemies on top to dispatch of. And they have set patterns so you can deal with them without bullshit like bad RNG stopping you. And this enemy really feels like it belongs in this level. Woodman's stage has my favorite assortment of enemies, which include rabbits that shoot carrots at you, giant mechanical wolves that spit flames at you, and these birds that hate you so much they throw their eggs at you, which, if they hit the ground, spawn a crap ton of baby birds that fly at you. On top of just being a hilariously creative enemy, they actually do appear in multiple levels, each of which present you with new, fun ways of dealing with these assholes. The stages themselves also have a lot more fun gimmicks. Airman's stage has the most aerial obstacles, constantly pushing you and forcing you to improve how you fight while you jump. Bubbleman has a great water level centered around slow, high jumps, demanding slower adjustments as you make pinpoint turns to avoid spikes. Both of these really feel tough because they challenge you in ways the first game never did, and overcoming them is a really great primer for the challenges of the later stage. Even returning mechanics like the block puzzles are given a new twist, as you have to navigate a gauntlet of these in succession to cross a giant gap, making you rely on a combination of pattern recognition, tight platforming, and quick thinking. These gimmicks extend to the bosses themselves too. Metal Man's got you running on his constantly changing conveyor belt, dodging a slew of saws. Airman sending out a horde of gust at you and blows you back. Bubbleman, Oh, never mind, he's already dead. Flashman's got this scary tactic where he'll stop time and shoot in front of him, making you feel kinda helpless if you left yourself open to his attack. They don't just run and jump at you, and it's nice to see the creativity of the stages bleed into these fights in actually meaningful ways. Mega Man 2 is easier than the first game, but it feels like that's because of a lack of stupid bullshit from Mega Man 1. The hallways before bosses are gone. A lot of RNG-based things are gone. Necessary bullshit weapons that you might miss because the game never tells you need them are gone. So when you actually do get a leg up on an enemy or clear a tough jump, it feels fairer in comparison. One of the best stages, Quickman, has these stupid fast beams that shoot out of the walls and kill you instantaneously if one of them touches you. For years, I've thought this level was impossible to beat without Flashman's power. This time, just to see if I could, I decided to do Quickman first without relying on it, and yeah, you can. And it felt good to know that I actually crossed a bar in this game without needing an extra power to help me. This game likes to focus on fast, on-the-fly scenarios that force you to have Sword Art Online dual-wielding levels of reaction time to not die. One of the most iconic Mega Man fights happens in one of the Wily stages, when you're just hopping around on these blocks and the jumps are tight, but manageable. Then fuck you, Dragon. Yeah. Hesitation is death. Jumping too early is death. Jumping too late is death. Honestly, breathing a little too hard at this section also might as well be death, but at the same time, that feeling of clearing a tough challenge that felt stacked against you really never gets old. I didn't bring it up in the first video, but when Mega Man moves left or right in the first game, if the player were to stop holding the directional button, Mega Man would stop a couple steps after the point where the player released their input. The best way to explain this is that it always felt like Mega Man's movement was just a little slippery, which can lead to some rather stupid deaths. The reason I didn't mention it as a flaw in that game, however, was because just like the threat of existential dread and all of your favorite franchises turning to shit, after a while, you just get used to it. In Mega Man 2, you stop on a dime, and that makes for more precise jumps. So you can go ahead and check the game is fucky off your list of excuses you give yourself before you realize you just kinda suck at it. But, don't feel too bad about dying. Holy fuck, you're gonna die, and I've died way more times than I would care to admit in this review. Let's talk about Mega Man's arsenal. You got your lemon gun that comes standard with every game, your leaf shield, your metal blades, you got your crash bombs that take forever to explode, your metal blades, your JoJo reference power, your metal blades, your lead bubble, your metal blades. Metal blades are really good, and that's the problem. You see, an important part of Mega Man games is beating Robot Masters, stealing their powers, and feeling a sense of progression throughout the game every time you open up your menu. By the time you're in Wily stages, you've worked incredibly hard to beat 8 Robot Masters, and now you have the tools to find the weakness of any enemy you come across. Problem is, there's no reason to ever use any power other than the metal blades. They shoot in 8 directions, one-shot almost every enemy, and the fuel economy on these things compared to every other weapon in the game is utterly fucking ridiculous. They're just so antithetical to the design philosophy of Mega Man games. If you give your player 8 weapons to play around with, you should give them an actual reason to use and experiment with the other 7. All of this is compounded by the fact that you get them from Metal Man, who is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the easiest Robot Master to beat, meaning the average player will be using this power for basically their whole playthrough. On top of all this, there's not one, but 2 Robot Masters that are weak to these things, as if they weren't strong enough already. So, yeah. If you were wondering why Mega Man's neutral B in Smash is the Metal Blades, they're the most broken and overused Mega Man power from arguably the most iconic Mega Man game. Now, as far as I can remember, I don't think there's a weapon as bad as these for the rest of the series, so at the very least I can say Capcom probably learned from their mistake. The magnet platform was hands down the worst implemented power in Mega Man 1. You could shoot it and just skip entire sections of platforming, and it was versatile enough that it could save you from basically any floor hazard in the game. Instead, this game has 3 special weapons you can use: the wall clinging guy, the platform guy, and the jet. You don't have to go find them in a secret place either. You get them in addition to beating 3 specific Robot Masters. Now, Power 3 just seems like Power 1 but worse, but it can still help you out for scaling walls if you ever find a use for it. 1 is a very versatile rising platform that can get you out of some really tight situations and help with general level traversal. 2 can fly you across in a straight line, and yeah, that sounds a lot like the magnet power, but I actually found that if I rode it for too long, it would usually bump into stuff, so there's still a risk to using this thing. One of the cool things about the jet is that you get it after you beat Airman, and his stage is where you do the most aerial maneuvers. Having the jet for this stage would have trivialized several sections here, but because you got it after, it's like the game's rewarding your platforming skills with an ability that makes it easier to traverse gaps. Overall, it feels like the game gives you a nice variety of traversal tools that all have their strengths and weaknesses, instead of just handing you one really amazing power that you can do everything with. And that's how I think it should be. The platform power actually really gets its own time to shine during the series of tough jumps near the end stages, where the only way to get up here is by getting 3 consecutive near-perfect jumps on them. It can be annoying, especially since, if you fall, you have to go back and get energy from the lower levels, but I like how at this point, at the first level of the last Wily stages, the game gives you a test of skill that you can't solve with your Metal Blades. Did I mention the dragon was right after this section, and dying to it means you have to do this section over again? Yeah, you're going to become very well acquainted with these jumps. Alright, let's talk about a few areas where the game isn't so great. Wily Stage 4 has you fighting a room of wall-mounted security guns that fire on you at timed intervals. You have to get through the room and deactivate the security system. As a concept, this is actually a really fun idea for a boss fight. The fight is you traversing this little labyrinth rather than actually fighting a physical Robot Master. Well, the problem is that you can't kill the guns with anything but crash bombs. And yes, that includes your Mega Buster, which, up until this point, has destroyed every enemy in the game, with 1 or 2 very, very rare exceptions. Even enemies that resist the Metal Blade, as rare as they may be, take damage from the Buster, so having a boss give no indication to the player that they'll need a special power to beat it seems a bit unfair. By the time you figure out what weapon is the weakness, you're probably already close to dying, and chances are you've used your crash bombs on the Wily stages leading up to the fight to break down a wall or something, so you probably don't even have the 5 shots you need to kill this thing. When you inevitably die because you decide to kill yourself because you ran out of energy, have fun going back to the room with the Mets to grind it back up. This fight just kind of feels cheap, like I'm being punished for using the only weapon that can kill this room, because I decided to use something other than the Metal Blades. With the walk back for energy, this fight isn't fun, it's just tedious. Maybe I'd forgive it if there was a reliable source of energy by the boss door, but nope. Also, fuck you, Keiji Inafune. I'm not saying the ridiculous name of your shitty boss. So, yeah. If you're wondering why Mega Man's Side B in Smash is the Crash Bomber, it's because Keiji Inafune hates me. If you're a fan of Mega Man, there's something you've probably recognized that I've missed. Something that's permeated through the series after this game. It's one of the most beloved and iconic video game power-ups ever made, and everybody thinks it's great. It's the E-Tank! I hate it. Well, I don't hate it as much as I hate the conundrum in gameplay that it causes. For those of you who don't know, the E-Tank is a findable consumable power-up that is, and I'm going to say this term very liberally, hidden throughout levels. They're pretty basic. You use them and they completely fill up your health. Wait, what? Yes, all of your health. If you ever find yourself in a tough spot, you can use one of up to 4 of these things that the game allows you to carry to completely top off all of your health, no matter where you are. Obviously that doesn't protect you from spikes and pits, so there's still plenty of ways to die with these on hand, but for all intents and purposes, this is another health bar. Here's the problem. They get you into shitty habits that will inevitably fuck you over later. Now you might say that having them around to help new players beat their first robot master is a good thing, because it helps you continue your playthrough even if you suck. The thing is, these bosses weren't designed for you to have to use multiple health bars. This is Metal Man on the hardest difficulty. His stage has 2 E-Tanks that you can get with relative ease. In the absolute bonker-ball scenario, where you need 2 E-Tanks to kill him, you're only fucking yourself over later because the endgame has a boss rush where you'll have to fight him again without any E-Tanks in your inventory. And trust me, you won't be stocked up on E-Tanks, because every time you game over, you lose all the ones you were carrying. So even if this was made to encourage new players to get through the game, they'll inevitably be punished for relying on that crutch later. Now, don't get me wrong, I think if you want to have the player fight through multiple bosses one after the other, you should have some kind of life gain system, and the game throws a little bit of life at you in between the fights and the boss rush as it is. So, actually, I would contend that between the Robot Master's weaknesses and getting a little bit of health afterwards, you still shouldn't have to rely on another health bar. Some of the endgame bosses like the Guts Tank and Wily Machine 2 look really cool, but actually die so fast to their weaknesses that using an E-Tank here never really felt necessary either. I couldn't find a single instance where I felt like I absolutely had to use these throughout the game, and that's not because I'm an epic gamer with 5 million intellect. It's because the game taught me how to deal with tough obstacles throughout the earlier levels. E-Tanks present a problem to the core gameplay of Mega Man. The point of these games is that you fought the boss the hard way, and learned the pattern through a combination of memory, skill, and using the right tool for the job. When you win because you had double the health bar of the thing you're fighting, it feels like you cheated not only the game, but yourself. You didn't grow. You didn't improve. You took a shortcut and gained nothing. You experienced a hollow victory. Nothing was risked and nothing was gained, and it's sad that you don't know the difference! Okay, memes aside, at least there has to be a trial of some kind before you get one of these things, right? Like, it can't be as simple as you walk to the end of this conveyor belt. There are so many ways these things could have been implemented without breaking the game. Like, if they were only accessible before a gauntlet of back-to-back boss fights, maybe I could understand it. Alternatively, you could nerf them down to have a slow regeneration effect over a long period of time. That way players who are struggling would still have to dodge attacks as their life refilled, instead of just open menu, hit button, and health number get bigger.
I've got an insatiable appetite for life, and I want more, more, more!
Going back to my Mega Man 1 review, I praised the Yellow Devil for being the best fight in the game. It had a tough, but very consistent pattern to recognize. It moved quickly, challenged your on-the-fly jumping skills, and when it hit you, it was the exact amount of damage you could do back to it before it moved again. The Yellow Devil had no weapon weakness that made the fight easier, but at the same time, you could pick weapons from your arsenal that had a large radius that could make hitting its eyeball a little easier. This fight is great because it touches on all the core tenets of what make the series fantastic, all while making you feel like you're on equal footing fighting it. Finally prevailing over what was the hardest enemy of the game wasn't just fun. It was proof that you took all the game had to throw at you, and you beat it on its terms. And with the existence of E-Tanks, from now until the end of the series, no matter how many times they bring back the Yellow Devil, that feeling will never be replicated because you can just bring another health bar to the fight.
I can't end this video without talking about the last boss of the game. You follow Wily to this weird cave with goo in it, and you find that, in a very epic plot twist, Wily was actually an alien all along. This fight's good. I don't think it's great, but the things it makes you do to win are pretty neat. For one, the only thing that damages while ET is the bubble lead, which, in the air, will fire directly in front of you, so you have to get him really close to hit with it. This is offset by him following a very predictable, slow infinity pattern, so it's very easy to figure out the best points to hit him. Though Wily himself does a lot of damage, so again, pattern recognition is key. I like this fight because it forces you to plan, take your time, and close in for an attack. It's weirdly methodical, and I like that even this far in the game, the creators have thought up ways to force you to play differently. After a couple of tries, you should be good to send this alien bastard back to the dark room he came from. Actually, it was all just a prank, bro.
Mega Man 2 really is still a fun game. The existence of E-Tanks, while I have my negative opinions on them, truly feel like they're a product of the time this game was made in. The fact is, I can still pop Mega Man 2 in and still have a lot of fun playing it, even with all its flaws, because it's a good game, and it's still far and away a great sequel compared to its predecessor. Just because the series will never have another true fight with the Yellow Devil certainly doesn't detract from a new player's journey through it, even if I really wish they'd add a boss with a similar design philosophy. So, yeah, I'd recommend playing Mega Man 2, and pretty much the rest of the series from here. The rest of the games on the NES really seem to push the hardware to its limits visually, and there's a lot of great stuff with every entry. When I played Mega Man 2 for the first time, it was already 20 years old, and while I didn't fully appreciate it then, now, after playing through so many other games that stood on its shoulders, I've realized that there really is some magic in going back to it. I found it hard to recommend Mega Man 1, but if the series was ever something you wanted to play through start to finish, or even something you wanted to dip your toes into, Mega Man 2 is a great place to start. Just don't start on Quick Man stage, please, for both of us. Promise me you won't do that. I am begging you. Technically speaking, this was a year-long video since I started thinking up the script of this after Mega Man 1. So, if I ever do Mega Man 3, I guess it'll be like 2 years from now. See you later, everybody. I'm Kaznarious, and I'm gonna go swim in Lake Ontario to find my disc from all those years ago.
Being out here for hours wading through these disgusting polluted waters. Guess I'll never see that disc again. Wait. No way. No way.
It didn't even hit the sea. It wasn't even. Let's pull it in. Let's pull it in.
Okay.
This is righty tighty.
Yeah, ready, tidy.
Okay.
Hopefully it doesn't get stuck.
Sorry,
Oh, that isn't a good scent at all.
Okay, so basically, the disc is stuck in a crater.
Where?
She's stuck somewhere in the rocks.
Oh God. Yeah, she's done bad.
Okay, I'm gonna pull her a bit. See if I can dislodge her. I bet this is just gonna make the line fucking snap.
Probably.
This is the nastiest fish I've ever had to fish. We tried to be Sonic heroes, but by not polluting the earth, but now it seems the disc is lost somewhere in this rock formation.
That otter, wherever he's gone, he has a...
There he is. There he is.
There he goes. He's got a fish.
Yeah, good for him.
I wish I had Mega Man right now.
Yeah, I wish I had my fish.